Thanks for coming out tonight, guys.
What's up?
Okay. So tonight, the topic that I'm going to be producing an argument for is a subject that has a lot of different opinions to it. That subject is on issuing a statewide curfew for teenagers or not. Curfews are given or were given to us at one point of our life, or some of us never had to experience a set curfew from our parents at all. In this speech, we're going to look as to why people would be for a statewide curfew and why people would be against it. Should we have a statewide curfew for teenagers, or is it not necessary at all? When I was living at home as a teenager, my parents would issue curfews for me. However, as my siblings and I got older and more responsible, my parents would push the time back for the curfew. For example, when I turned 16 years old, my curfew was at midnight, whereas to when I was 18 years old, they pushed it back to 1 or 2 in the morning. There are multiple feelings as to whether or not there should be a statewide curfew. I personally feel that we shouldn't have one because I feel like parents should be able to set curfews based on how responsible their kids are or not. There are, however, pros and cons on this matter. Giving a statewide curfew in the United States of America has its pros to it. One of those pros would be that it would give peace of mind to parents and teenagers. A lot of parents in the country do not want their teenage son or daughter out late because they feel that it would keep them out of criminal violence, thus keeping them out of juvenile. This pro to the curfew would provide a sense of mental security for the parents. The parents of these minors also want parental control because they want their kids to be safe, and a lot of adults feel like their kids need to be dependent on them still because they are under the age of 18, which is when we are legally considered adults. Some parents feel like their kid isn't fully mature until then. Well, here's a little secret. People mature at their own rate. Another pro to this subject would be that the teenagers have structured lives. Parents feel that teens have a hard time making smart decisions in life. Not necessarily because everyone can make a smart or bad choice with their gift or agency, and parents feel that this curfew will help enable teens to create good habits for themselves and keep them out of trouble. Here's another secret for you. A time limit is not going to keep a teenager from making a good or bad decision. A lot of citizens who are or are becoming parents also feel that a statewide curfew would prevent teens from going to juvenile to become delinquents. Sneaking out of the house very late at night generally puts teenagers in a position because they no longer have the protection and security outside of the family environment. Teenagers become more vulnerable to participating or falling victim to juvenile crimes and other criminal acts done during the night, close quote. Here's the thing. A teenager can easily commit a crime at their very own home because they can steal and do drug deals located right under their parents' noses. And the parents are still worried about what could go wrong outside of their homes at night. Well, they should make sure their house isn't being used for criminal activity before they are worried about their son going to jail for something that he does out on the streets. I personally do feel, though, that the laws that we already have for teenagers who have committed crimes are now on parole are great because it still lets the teens out late only if they are accompanied with a legal adult. It doesn't take away the freedom of no curfew. It just puts a limit on the freedom until the teen can prove to behave him or herself. Let's now focus on the cons of having a statewide curfew for young adults. One of the first cons we should explore is that it would cause a thing that is called autocratic parenting. Autocratic means having absolute power over someone so their agency to choose for themselves is limited. When being an autocratic leader is implemented into parenting, it can cause some unnecessary tension from the family. When parents impose curfew mainly because it is the law, the family loses sight over the importance of getting kids involved in the way the household is run. Despite being minors, teenagers have their own beliefs, opinions, and goals that parents overlook or undermine when curfew law is blindly enforced, close quote. It is also stated in a statistical study that the statistics from the U.S. Department of Justice, juvenile crimes are higher after school on weekdays and around 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends. This means curfew may actually provide little benefit to deter juvenile delinquency, close quote. As we can see, there is evidence coming left and right that supports that a curfew would not really help the crime rate decrease by any means. The con that ties in with the stats is that the curfew would create a false sense of security for the parents and local authorities. Yes, a curfew can help raise children to be better, but it is not a thing that will put a halt to criminal activity and violence. Another con we can discuss, and I feel that this one is very valid, is that a curfew will hinder maturity instead of increasing it. It can prevent teenage criminals from learning how to truly negotiate with their parents or the local city authorities, thus limiting their development for good people skills. Those skills they can develop will certainly help them for the real world when they are out on their own and not relying on their parents anymore. Curfew-raised kids may get culture shock and become less adaptable when released from the curfew law. Setting up a statewide curfew is very unconstitutional because not only are you limiting the agency of the people who are in trouble, you're taking away the freedom for all the innocent people who didn't commit a crime and thus they are not needing a curfew. Some critics argue that curfew is unconstitutional, that it gives the government right to interfere with the family's privacy and chosen methodologies for parenting. For the most part, curfew restricts everyone under 18 whether or not they are rebellious or delinquent. This means that even the good kids are punished for offenses they didn't commit. It's not fair to punish people for something they didn't do. Freedom isn't like a football game where if one person on a team causes a penalty, the whole team gets penalized. You honestly can't expect to penalize the entire town of Dallas if one person commits a crime. That would just cause more rebellion, if we're being honest. A lot of parents and local authorities also discriminate against people who are out late at night as violators of the law or viewed as delinquents. Discrimination is never okay for any reason, especially discriminating people based on an assumption that is most likely false. I have now listed 5 pros and 5 cons as to why the statewide curfew shouldn't be implemented. I personally feel that it would be a bad idea because I personally agree with all the cons to this. As a 22-year-old adult, I know without a shadow of a doubt that I wouldn't appreciate a statewide curfew because I would not want to have my rights taken away for crimes I haven't and never will commit. It is not right to present these punishments on teenagers and young adults who are in the same boat as I am. I also know that I want my kids to have the same freedom that I am blessed with because if they ever get themselves into some serious trouble while they are out at night, then my future wife and I will decide the best curfew for them and punishment.